Hey, this is Pamela Riemenschneider. I'm the retail editor for Blue Book Services, and we are talking about online produce shopping, the path forward. And I have this week's episode is talking about online produce shoppers and are they channel hoppers? What are they looking for? I have a panel of experts here. Thank you for joining me. And we've come a long way toward building trust with consumers with a huge leap forward fueled by the pandemic. But that surge is showing signs of slowing. According to surveys done by category partners, the surveys behind the online produce shopping path forward series. Tom, I'm going to kick it off with you. We know that the pandemic was the huge contributor to online shopping, but as we're looking to the future, what other factors are consumers looking for shopping online?
Yeah, it's a great opening question for this segment. And thank you for doing this, by the way, and thank you, Lonnie, for joining us today. We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be doing this, and hopefully these are useful for those out there in the industry. So as we did this multiple surveys and looked at what were the contributing factors, obviously we saw that COVID just completely blew up online shopping. But as we look to the future and what's going to continue people to use online shopping, I think there's a couple of things in the demographics that really helped us to understand where online shopping is going to continue to stay big, and then other places where it may not last as long. Obviously, we're getting a little bit of a tailwind of COVID with this Delta variant, and hopefully that subsides here quickly. We can always hope for the best. But one of the things that we noticed, and this wasn't just in the produce department, but we also did these same surveys in all of the fresh departments, bakery, meat, and seafood. And one of them was population density. And we found that the more dense the city, the more likely it was for consumers to rely on online shopping and pickup services. The other piece to this is not only the density of the city, but density of the household, meaning the more people that you have in your household, the more likely you are to use online shopping. So that goes to show that families with children, especially small children, are very likely to use online services. If they don't have to go into a store, moms with young children in tow, and they can pick that up or they can have it delivered, they're definitely going to do so.
Thanks, Tom. There was another stat that really stood out to me in the research, and it was people adopting online produce shopping. Back in the day, even as few as 10 years ago, 0% of people surveyed said that they looked online for produce. And now we had the surge from COVID. I feel like that notion of people don't buy produce online because they want to pick it themselves, that was always the excuse, it seemed like. That doesn't seem true anymore. How is consumer perception of buying produce online? How has that changed?
Well, actually, I would say that still is a concern. I think a lot of people, that is an insurmountable barrier for many people. And for some people, they just won't shop online because they really want to pick out their own produce. So for some, that still is an issue. Now, and I think the big thing is the loss of control. They want to know, that my fruit is this ripeness or this size, or all those little specifications that we like with our fruits and vegetables. Now, there are, however, some consumers who are comfortable with it. And I think that convenience factor has really outweighed that need for control, right? So you take younger people, for example, and they're very comfortable. They're very comfortable online in general. So they're very comfortable shopping online. And, they're okay with giving up that control. And I think that outweighs, maybe the convenience outweighs that, right? So they have busy families, they've got kids, and they just really need the convenience factor. But that said, one way for retailers to get around that is, offering some type, when they're shopping, maybe there's a way, they can at a place where they can specify, you know, I want my fruit this level of ripeness, this color, this size. And so that's, you know, kind of a way to give customers that control back.
All right. Yeah, thanks, Cara. We also know that online shopping isn't going to maintain the out of control momentum of the early pandemic days. What did the survey identify? Who still plans to shop online, and what are they looking for?
So I think that we can say with confidence that there is going to be, you know, a pullback on the online shopping, because we've already seen that. For example, last summer, 54% of produce shoppers said that, you know, they were ordering produce online, and we are already seeing now that this summer compared to last summer that number is down in the mid 30s. And so what's interesting, and probably a little too soon to tell for sure, is what exactly is driving that. Is there a seasonality to online produce shopping, where when people are out and about and have a lot more activities in the summer, they don't mind stopping and to shop for a few items, or, you know, more often to get fewer items, where in the winter they're not out as much, it's colder, and they don't want to make those frequent trips to the store. So we saw that pullback this summer. Is that the reason, or did COVID itself play a huge factor in that? Because you saw that trend really trend up last summer in 2020, when COVID was at some of its worst, where now it's not playing as big a factor, though it still is. So which of those factors is really playing into that retreat, and how long it'll last remains to be seen.
Yeah, Lonnie, I really like what you said about that. We really don't know what it's going to do in the future. We do know that it's coming down, right? Just like you were just saying. But I would think that retailers would continue to focus attention on their online shopping platforms. And really what it comes down to is, if you want online shoppers, you have to have convenience. One of the things that we saw was that these online platforms came online so quickly that they don't exactly look finished. And the search engines are a little rough. Not only does it need to be convenient for them to be able to shop and to get to the items that they're looking for, but they need to be able to find them. And it needs to be easy to go from their list on the fridge to a list in their platform, and then, you know, hit that checkout button and get their order. And so we'll be watching this as, you know, our team will be continuing to watch this and monitor this, and hopefully over the next, you know, months and years to come, we'll be able to continue to report on this and see just exactly how this is trending out, and who really is staying online versus going back into store.
Well, and that's one thing that we're going to get out of the companies that are doing more robust online platforms. They're going to have a lot more data. They're going to have a lot more information on who their shoppers are, what they're shopping for, and how frequently, all of that stuff. I feel like we're going to see a surge in improvements in our online platforms in the very near term, as they've captured all of that data from pandemic shopping. But on the other hand, people are going back to stores, and I think that we're going to see more people being omni-channel, and not just talking about the different styles of retailers, not just a club store versus a supermarket. So what are some of the ways that retailers and marketers can work together to help online complement in-store shopping and in-store promotions going forward, so we can see these work together and not siloed?
That's a really, really good question. And it's going to be an incredibly important question going forward, I think, as retailers and suppliers, as we strive to, you know, provide the end value that the consumer is looking for with that consistency piece, but also as suppliers and retailers strive to kind of create a competitive advantage to making this work for the consumer. The data shows that consumers tend to buy larger quantities of produce online, almost in a stock up manner, where in stores, those pack sizes tend to be a little bit smaller, those quantities tend to be a little bit smaller. So when you're talking about trying to develop uniformity between online and in-store purchasing, while still providing consistency that the consumer is looking for, it's going to come down to almost, it depends. And so I think it'll depend on where the retailer is located, both regionally and then actually the local stores, and then what their target market is for the specific items going forward. So it's going to be something that we're going to have to really work together and try to create that uniformity with, the specific detail to the differences that consumers want online versus in store. So it'll be a really interesting question going forward on how we all make that work.
That was a fantastic answer, Lonnie. I really appreciate your input, and we will stay tuned as we dig in deeper to online produce shopping, the path forward. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.